Well, what do you think?
It's a great word. It's just...
Just what?
Is it the right word? Is it true? Because I don't really feel like I deserve any of the things you've written about me.
Then it is the perfect word.
That's the perfect scene to set up our next conversation. From the movie Charlotte's Web, based on the beloved children's book by E.B. White, it's a sweet story of true friendship between a spring pig and the spider that saves his life. A family favorite with a simple but powerful lesson about, above all, being humble. And that's a lesson we think deserves a little more attention. So today we're sharing advice to help you teach your kids the art, the integrity of humility. Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson is here with some advice. Charlotte and Wilbur, they've got it right. They've introduced countless children to the concept of humility. Why do you feel like this value is so important?
Well, important because it really is at the foundation of anything and everything we need to be successful. And let's determine success as true joy, right? Humility is at the root of anything that provides us true joy, really. And so we need it. To be teachable, we need humility. To be patient, we need humility. To work hard, we need humility. It's at the root of everything. And I think naturally we overlook it as parents for a couple reasons. I think the first, we overlook it because society tells us that to be humble means we can't succeed. We can be awesome and be humble. Those things can coexist, and that's a misnomer. The other reason too is I think as parents it's really hard for us to live this principle, and so naturally when it's hard for us as adults we're not teaching it to our kids.
Why is it so hard, Heather?
Because it's hard.
Why?
Well, because humility takes humility, and it's hard to accept that, right? So like even examples, let's take in a marriage. Humility is this space where my husband and I disagree, and as we're having a disagreement, I'm willing to stay quiet because I care more about hearing him than being heard. Not because my opinion matters less, but because his opinion matters as much, right? That's a hard space to be in. It's the space at work where we've worked for 6 months on a project and the boss comes in and says, it's still not good enough. And instead of blaming or being offended, humility is where we take a step back and we don't negate all of our hard work, but we're humble enough to go and say, clearly I need some more skills. Teach me, I'm teachable, let me see what I can do. When we're not living that way, it's very hard to model that for our kids.
This topic, I should say, the lack of humility, sparked a really strong conversation in our planning meeting. A lot of moms, wives, women, mothers in that meeting. And I'm curious to get your opinion on this, the lack of humility. Did we create that problem ourselves? Because I think back 10, 20 years ago when I was a kid, maybe it was all about rah, rah, build your kids up because the world will strip them down eventually.
Sure.
Have we gone too far with that to the point that now they're lacking that humble trait that used to be carried forward from the home?
Right. Well, whether we can kind of pinpoint it to a generation or a belief system, if we're looking for a belief system that's hurt us, it's this space where we've forgotten where our true worth comes from. And if anything, if you need to teach anything or want to teach anything to your kids, teach them where their real value comes from. We don't have to earn our worth. It is part of our birthright. We come worthy. Right? And that's a misnomer. Society tells us that to be worthy, we have to look a certain way, keep a certain house, have certain kids that do certain things.
You've got to earn it. You've got to fight for it.
That's exactly right. That is not true. We all come worthy. And it becomes a very amazing space where our children understand that one concept. Because that means that no matter where we're born, what stuff we have or what we've accomplished, we are the same. We are the same. And it's very humbling to see that space. Once I'm in that space as a child or as an adult, that's where I can listen to my husband over talking because I recognize that his worth is equal to mine, regardless of the situation. Where our children can say, your worth is equal to mine, even though I aced that math test and got into the college I want and you didn't.
Okay, so when the foundation's there, I am valuable, I am worthy. When the foundation's there, how can we then help our children make decisions based on that value?
Right, we're gonna teach them that morals should make their decisions for them. It isn't about who is right, it's about what is right. And so that's a really key way to even speak to our kids to help them see that once we have a value system, that has to govern the decisions we make. It isn't about who says it or what they think, it's about what is right, not who is right. And that's a really, really, really important point for us to be practicing in our home all the time.
You also want parents to really encourage kids to use their strengths. How does that translate back to humility?
Well, the thing about it is, again, we can be awesome and be strong in things and successful and still be humble. And a great way to do this, and as parents, is to teach them to take their strengths and use them for good, to model those, right? And that's something really important as parents. We've got to model humility. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to be very open to saying, I made a mistake. I don't know, right? I remember the very first time I told one of our kids I didn't know the answer. It was our son. He brought home math. It was calculus. And I took a deep breath and thought, I got to fake this. You can't, your mom has to know how to do this.
There's no faking calculus.
There is no faking calculus. And I remember looking at him and saying, you know what, bud, I don't know. And in all honesty, the only reason I passed calculus is because Grandpa helped me every single night when I was in high school. So let's go to our resources and I'll help you find it, but I don't know. And so if we kind of tie those two things together, we want to teach our kids, you're strong and good in things. That's awesome. Let's take that and do good with it, right? When I think about that one for our kids, we have kids who are great swimmers. Our two oldest compete and they're fast. They love it and they do it a lot. So in the summer, instead of just competing for themselves, they teach kids to swim. And it's so awesome to see how they get better at swimming because they've helped kids learn to swim, right? And we're so worried about protecting that part of humility is when I succeed, I got to protect it and keep it. But it's only in being humble enough to give away our successes that we become more successful.
One thing, though, you do want us to protect are our mistakes. What does that mean, protect your mistakes?
We have to make it okay to make them. Our house has to be this space where messing up is okay. All the time. I make mistakes every single day, and to pretend that I don't is lying. It's a lack of humility, right? I misjudge things, I misunderstand, I fall behind, I'm not on top of, I have expectations I don't meet. I have a hard time being patient when I should, right? And so we want a home where our kids can know I messed up. And humility is saying, it doesn't mean that I'm bad. It means that what I did wasn't the best. How can I do better? And they're teachable, right? That's where humility again comes into play. So if our homes are a place where perfection is the only thing that's accepted, they will never be able to live in that humble space where there's true joy.
You'll be in a constant state of cover-up.
Absolutely. And perfection really is what hurts us more than anything, because how can we be humble if it's not perfect? And if I have to keep it perfect, I can't ever accept that there's been a mistake.
You've touched on this, 30 seconds left. We know we should be modeling humility. What's the #1 best way parents can step forward and do that?
And model humility, definitely by being human, by being real. And this doesn't mean that with our kids we have to just you know, throw up everything.
Spill it all out.
It's not, that is not humility, but it is recognizing I'm human and I believe in value systems and principles, but I also have limits and I'm also doing the very best I can. And so if our value system of love and patience and kindness is governing, then I'm going to accept your best, accept mine, and we'll work together to figure this out. That's where humility lives in a home. That's how our children feel good about it.
Beautifully said. I knew this was important before, but I suddenly feel this new impassioned approach to this topic.
Humble.
So thank you so much. Heather has a private practice. She helps families and couples. We'll post her information on our website. Thank you again.